Hi, welcome to Business Spotlight. I'm joined today by Dan Wallman, and Dan is the founder of TechNative Digital. So, welcome to the call, Dan. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Well, we've both got interests in business and young people and in education. So, let's start there with you. Perhaps sharing with us a little bit about what your business does and why you're doing it.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I guess I should go backwards a little bit and start with, the a bit of my history that my m- I set up and founded an organization, essentially a college for young people called Deviate, way back in 2003 when I was 27. Um, and the aim of Deviate was really to engage young people in creative pursuits, creative education, creative and digital education, but really with the focus on teaching them skills that they really needed to be successful in the workplace rather than ticking off qualifications. So my focus and interest has always been in giving people the skills that are going to be useful to them and allow them to be useful in the workplace, whether they're young people or adults. Um, I led that organization for nearly 20 years, and we might get onto that. That's a whole
Mm.
other story. I left DVA in around 2021 and has uh, has been doing a fair bit of consultancy, leading on the creative and digital
Mm.
side of the local skills improvement plan in Sussex.
Yeah.
Big bit of my job for that is to speak to employers about where they see skills gaps, how the skills network or system is serving their needs. And certainly in creative and digital, there's different issues in creative and digital actually, but my focus has been on digital where there is a real skills gap between what people are being taught or learning in the mainstream skill system and what employers are asking for. And it was really, really apparent to me that something needed to change. There needed to be a different approach, something done differently. So I set up TechNative as a way of doing that. And for the last couple of years, we've been partnering with businesses to run software development boot camps. We've also run a number of projects supporting the local skills infrastructure. So
Mm.
supporting teachers to upskill in digital and introducing them to employers and running a whole series of sort of workshops for teachers. I'm running a competition for schools in East Sussex where young people are linking up with industry mentors
Mm.
to design and pitch a digital product. I've done some research projects on AI. I've done all sorts of different stuff, that has been helping the skill system essentially get closer to what industry needs. But my passion really is around supporting people to move into careers and giving them the right skills through sort of really practical and engaging learning. And that's what we're doing at TechNative.
Yeah, no, and that's very laudable. And some of the people watching this may know that in my previous life I was a head teacher before I became a business coach, and I've still got interests, business interests in the education sector as well. One of the things that has changed a lot over time has been the emphasis on careers, and it's been in decline in the education sector as a focus for some time. But it's almost as though you've stepped into that space and not just tried to replace it, but actually to take it to another level and say, look, we're looking at specific digital skills and training and getting people ready for the world of work. Do you find you have to go out to look for those individuals through your various connections, or are they coming to you because they can really see that there's a need that you can fulfill?
I think in the adult group, there's a big cohort of career changers who are looking to get into digital careers, whether that's software development or data or other areas of tech and digital,
Yeah.
where I think especially post-pandemic, people are looking for a different sort of work potentially where they can work remotely,
Yeah.
where there's a lot of people who have a real passion for digital subjects and have been ended up in different careers. And so I think there's a lot of cross-transferable skills you can bring from other sectors. And I think there's a big cohort there. And when they see the opportunities through boot camps and
Yeah.
um, these other schemes to help people get into careers, I think there's a big demand for digital careers. On the young people side of it, we're not really focused at young people with tech native,
Right.
but I think that. there's a real gap in careers advice
Yeah,
that we're trying to help close. I think, with the best will in the world, careers advisors have to cover every subject. They can't possibly keep up with the pace of change in the digital industries, and um, there's there's constantly new jobs that um, won't be familiar to careers advisors. It's changing so quickly, and with AI coming, it's going to change even quicker. I don't think young people actually realize or understand the full range of roles and opportunities available to them. So I think there's a whole different job to be done
yeah. I
in
mean,
school.
it's
Yeah.
very commendable that you're working with those that can see, they've had other careers and they're working on transferable skills and things like that. But you're kind of hinting here at something that is a much, much, much bigger problem, and that is that we seem to be unprepared, and the education sector in particular seems to be unprepared for the type of skills and the type of knowledge and the ability to learn and act and adapt quickly that maybe young. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's what I'm picking up. The children to be able to adapt quickly and even be taught those skills in the first place.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think there's a real looming crisis coming, to be honest with you. I think the skills gap is widening so quickly that soon we're going to be teaching completely out of date skills, if not already. The curriculum, it's so hard systemically for awarding bodies and qualifications to keep up to date. It's hard for teachers who are working really, really hard under difficult circumstances to keep up to date.
Yeah,
And it's only going to change quicker. Already we're seeing in kind of film and TV production that AI production of moving image is completely transforming
mm,
the media industries, the TV and film industries, the advertising industries. And a lot of schools, they're not only not teaching or looking at these skills, they're actually banning AI in the school. And you're only going to disadvantage the young people if you don't teach them those skills now, because some jobs are going to change completely. And if we're not prepared for that, we're not going to be preparing our young people for the
yeah.
jobs that are going to be there for them.
Yeah, I mean, I know this isn't core to what TechNative Digital does, and we will come to that in a second. But I think there's an interesting discussion to be had here, and certainly from my point of view, there are some real innovators in the education sector, and they're bright shining lights. But ultimately, we've still got a 19th century education model and system. The curriculum is there and is designed very much to deliver what is considered to be knowledge that is needed, and there's a whole range of questions around how we evaluate and assess a student's or young person's ability to be ready for the world of work. But maybe the real focus should be on even the nature of teaching itself and the nature of education itself. If you're saying that it's very difficult for teachers to keep up, they're under a lot of pressure, all kinds of things, then actually maybe the problem that needs to be solved is how do we better teach both the content and the skills that students need, rather than how do we adapt to the outside world, and try and fix a model that we're constantly, I don't know, perhaps putting sticker plasters on all the time. What's your view?
Yeah, yeah,
That wasn't really a question; it was a statement from me, wasn't
yeah,
it? So I wonder
yeah.
how aligned you are with that.
I agree. I mean, I understand there's a need for structure and quality assurance and consistency and modeling across a whole national framework.
Yeah,
It's really difficult for the system to respond in a way that is responsive enough. I think in the compulsory school age, um, but having said that, the closer that each institution works with industry to embed
yeah,
learning, to
yeah,
familiarize teachers, on a systemic level with what's going on in industry,
yeah,
the better this is going to be for young people. At post 16, I think there's real opportunities to do things differently.
yeah,
Study programs allow for quite a high level of flexibility that's not always utilized.
yeah,
Um, and certainly with boot camps, I'm a big believer in the boot camp model that at 19 plus, you can fundamentally tailor these learning programs with employers for employers. in a really, really super interesting way that I don't think has been fully utilized yet.
Right. So let's look at what TechNative Digital does with the older people then. And I can imagine that the problem there is that yeah, it's clear on what it is that you can do with them, but we're going to have issues around politics and funding and all kinds of things. And it still feels like you've got to use the recently used phrase, a coalition of the willing, in
Mm.
terms of local businesses and business owners that think, yeah, we're happy to be engaged in this. How frustrating is it for you, and how challenging is it for you to really be able to fund the work that you want to do?
The funding has been difficult over the last couple of years. I started Tech Native in 2022,
Hmm.
August, so we're kind of 2 and a bit years in,
Yeah,
and there hasn't been really government funding openings for a new organization in that time. It's the rules around subcontracting have become really off-putting to large providers. It has been a really difficult period for us, and we've existed on programs that we've run through business sponsorship
yeah,
or by charging people.
yeah.
Now, my whole career has been offering government-funded training for free to people, so it hasn't been a natural transition for me to run programs where we're asking people for money, whether it's businesses or people. However, that's kind of where we've had to be. The business sponsorship model worked really, really well, although wasn't really sustainable without any other outside funding. But we developed a whole program for two software organizations, Dab Apps and Certain, who are based in Brighton, and
Yeah.
we trained up 10 people to be put forward for what was two roles in their company, and they essentially funded that boot camp, and we recruited for their jobs,
So
and
it was part of their recruitment process. Then
we embedded ourselves with their
yeah,
recruitment process.
and
Yeah.
that's really interesting model.
We had two job descriptions I put on LinkedIn, and I had over 1,000 applicants for those two jobs. So that showed there was massive demand for this.
Yeah.
Uh, but it was a difficult ask of businesses, and I don't think it's a sustainable model because you need a business to be in the right place at the right time with the right budget, with the right will to do that, and they're a real unicorn. So um, if you can fund that through government funding, which you can, if you can source it, then that's a much more effective way to go. So interestingly, we're just going through a round of government funding, and we're just waiting to hear on a next week on a few tenders that we've put in for boot camps across Sussex. So fingers crossed, we'll be able to offer some free boot camps, potentially in data, software development, across Sussex to businesses and uh, learners. And we're also partnering with with an insurance firm that we've been speaking to around potentially doing a boot camp with them as well. So there's some really interesting ways to approach this. So I'm hopeful for the future, but the last couple of years
Been challenging.
have
So
been.
so the boot camp model itself. So with the two companies you referenced in Brighton, they obviously incorporated the cost of that into their recruitment budget,
Mm.
and probably very wisely, because it's important to recruitment is expensive, and retention is or poor retention is even more expensive. So that's interesting. That's an interesting model. Um, I was also interested though to see the number of people that had applied, over 1,000. I wonder whether that encourages you to think that actually there may be other business models that you can develop on the back of that demand.
It did totally. The interesting thing that came out of that recruitment is we asked them what their level of prior learning was, and the majority of them already had a computer science degree, yet they were asking to come on a 16-week full stack developer boot camp. So we actually turned all of those down because we wanted to focus on tech newcomers and we couldn't mix the cohort. But it led us to believe that there's a huge demand from, these guys have done 3 years of academic learning.
Right. So the
But
question I'm going to ask.
yeah,
Why? Why would they feel? I can think of two possible reasons. What's your? What do you think is the
they
main reason?
don't feel ready for work.
Right. Yeah.
and they're not confident. So this actually led us to build a new program called the Tech Finishing School, which
Right.
was specifically for computer science graduates who can't find work. And there is a whole cohort of these people who have done 3 years studying and are now working for Tesco's stacking shelves. They're working in Costa Coffee. They're working in Marks and Spencer's. They're working in customer service for the RAC. They're working in non-tech roles, and the longer that they're because they needed to find work, so they've gone off and found work, but it's not in what they've studied. So the longer that they stay away from tech, the further away
The
from
more
work.
de-skilled they're going to become, and the
Yeah,
further from. So how do they? How is that course funded then? So
we're
if
we're
somebody's working
charging
in
we're charging
Tesco's
them.
and thinking I need a refresher, do they pay for it themselves or
Yeah, we're charging them. So
charge them?
they have to pay, what's not a small amount of money for them to come onto this program. Hopefully, we can offer this for free as of soon. But this first cohort, they recognize the investment in their career.
Yeah,
So this is all about, it's not teaching them just tech skills. It's it's how do you use the skills you've learned in a work setting to deliver to a brief, working in a team, on time, to a high quality. So these are the skills that are actually in demand, which is teamwork, communication, which is resilience, responding to a brief, dealing with failure, learning how to solve problems. So we're taking the tech skills that they've learned, and actually, even though they've learned for 3 years,
yeah,
there's still a gap between what they need to know. So
yeah,
we're teaching them the tech skills they need to know to be ready in industry, teaching them how to work in teams to deliver a product, and also a lot of coaching and support on job applications, how to present yourself online, how to do your CV, how to do your portfolio and your GitHub and all these things, which they just don't teach you in university. So they're not presenting themselves effectively to employers, and they're not giving themselves the best chance of standing out in a crowded market to get the job. Um, they don't know that. So that's where we saw our role coming in, bridging that gap.
and in terms of your marketing, how do you connect up with these individuals? How do they find you, or how do you find them?
Um, that's starting from a standing start, with a new program to a new audience, and as a small micro business as we are at the moment, a lot of hard work, a lot of outreach, talking to people on LinkedIn,
Yeah,
um, running some events online, uh, trying to talk to as many people as possible. And I think that will get easier as
yeah,
you grow and you gain traction. So we've just run this first cohort now, and then hopefully we'll have we've got people from Glasgow, Luton, and Sussex on this, and around the UK. But we're hopefully we'll be running a more localized model.
yeah,
I think the best way to recruit is by having a job. So
yeah.
if we go back to the employer model, but this time it's free.
Mhm.
Um, if you provide us with a job, we'll train people specifically for your team.
Yeah,
That to me is the most effective way of recruiting. You put a job ad out there and you
yeah.
instantly have got interest.
Dan, it's really interesting. You've obviously recognised all kinds of problems. Some of them developing with the speed at which technology is developing. Others are kind of sort of long-standing problems in society and education and how we do things. But you've clearly got a passion for finding solutions. It seems you've got a lot on your plate in terms of solution finding at the moment. Um,
Yeah.
but so I wish you all the best. But it's been fascinating to hear some of your insights and what you're doing to bridge that gap. And I commend that. I really do. And I wish you all the best for the future. And thank
Thank
you
you,
for
Gavin.
sharing with us. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.